Welcome to the My Lotus Moments podcast, the podcast for women of color to have open and honest dialogue about experiences that we all share, from dating, relationships, mental health, and everything in between. I'm your host, Hope Coleman, a licensed social worker and mental health advocate and coach. To get more information and resources, visit the website at www.hopeinher.com. Let's get started. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 22 of the My Lotus Moments podcast. February 26th through March 4th is National Eating Disorders Awareness Week, and according to nationaleatingdisorders.org, the theme for this year is Let's Get Real, with the goal of expanding the conversation and highlighting stories that we don't hear often. What perfect way to shed some light on the struggles we have as women in communities of color than to take the time to discuss emotional eating. Emotional eating is something that is very common in our community because it's used as a way to cope with trauma, stress, and emotion regulation. As women of color, we are commonly referred to as superwomen because we are known for putting the needs of others before our own, and sometimes neglecting ourselves altogether. Before I introduce to you today's guest, I must inform you that this podcast is used for educational purposes only and shouldn't be used in replacement of mental health services. Should you be interested in finding professional services for yourself, please check the show notes for more resources. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with licensed clinical social worker Lisa Savage. Lisa is a licensed therapist in the state of Delaware, and she has been in practice since 1998. She owns one of the largest practices servicing children and families within the state. Lisa is a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania. Her focus of study was on health and mental health. Most of her career has been focused on the provision of quality health care to underserved and poor communities. She began her career in Philadelphia, working in the community to provide direct service and education to people affected by HIV. Ms. Savage is a strong proponent of taking services to people in their communities. To that end, she began working in schools and other community settings. In the past 4 years, she has expanded her services to schools and opened the Center for Child Development, which focuses solely on the provision of mental health services to children and families in the school setting. Additionally, Ms. Savage owns and operates the Center for Adult Wellness and Counseling, where the focus is on helping adults in areas such as anger control, stress management, emotional eating, and marriage counseling. To learn more about Lisa and both of her practices, click the links in today's podcast show notes. Let's get started. Is the Eating Disorder Awareness Week. And so I've suffered from emotional eating. And also I powerlift. And while I'm really good at it, I still have trouble meeting my goals when it comes to like the weight class I want to participate in, because I really do have to focus on like my nutrition. And so sometimes when I get like overwhelmed or frustrated or just like bummed out, my diet goes out of the window.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me, and my trainer sometimes like just eat these egg whites, just eat spinach, drink this water, and call it like do not eat nothing else. And I'm like, okay. And so I can do that for maybe, however long, and then if I'm having like a bad day, if work is gone terrible, or it can get really emotional for me, and then I kind of just feel bad, and I'm like,
and I think part of it is being in a stressful field, the one that we're in, and then not learning good coping mechanisms along the way. And now we're at a point where we have more awareness of what we're doing. Now we have to replace some of those unhealthy behaviors with more healthy behaviors, and so it's a lifelong process.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. So don't beat yourself up over it.
After the podcast with Therapy for Black Girls, I've understood more about it, and so I was so enlightened. I was like, okay, thank you. I'm not crazy.
No. No, and I'm going to tell you, it's an issue for a lot of women of color. And I said that in Joy's podcast, is that it is an issue for a lot of women of color. You're not alone, is what I'm saying.
Well, let's get started. Can you explain what emotional eating is?
Yep.
So can you explain what that is?
Yep. So emotional eating is when we choose to eat food either consciously or subconsciously out of an emotional experience rather than a physical hunger. So when we're physically hungry, there's signs of us being hungry, like our stomach might be growling, or we might feel a little lightheaded, or it may have been a few hours since we ate our last meal. People who engage in emotional eating tend to eat based on emotions, and those emotions can be happy, sad, angry, frustrated, depressed. It's just a way that people will use food that is more emotionally driven than physical or physiological.
And how prevalent is that in communities of color?
Yeah, I don't have any hard and fast stats on it, but I can tell you from the work that I've done, and the observations that I've done, in talking to hundreds of women of color who struggle with emotional eating, is that it's very prevalent. So I think, and I'll talk a little bit about why I think communities of color are more affected by emotional eating, but for women in particular, we have some things that go against us, that make us more prone to emotional eating. One is that we tend to be, especially Black women and Latina women, we tend to be caretakers, and we tend to want to take care of everybody else's needs but our own. And so when we sublimate our own needs for those of others, then we suffer as a result of it. And sometimes that comes out in eating to make ourselves feel better, eating to make ourselves feel comforted, relaxed. But I think a bigger issue is the years and decades of trauma that some people in our communities have experienced. There is a direct connection between emotional eating and trauma.
Okay.
And we don't necessarily have to suffer from trauma ourselves, but we know that the history of Black and brown people in this country has been wrought with trauma. I mean, decades of trauma. And so even if we didn't suffer from trauma, maybe our moms did, our dads did, our grandparents did. And so until someone decides, we're going to deal with the after effects of all this chronic trauma and stress that we've dealt, then it's passed on from generation to generation. And so in the Black community, historically, how we gather and have family time and show each other love, and this is not related to trauma. This is just another factor. Okay. We eat, and we like to consume, and I'm generalizing here, but we like to consume good food, and we. You know how it is when a grandmother sees a baby that's not fat, and the grandmother goes, "You need to fatten up that baby."
Yeah.
And so some of it's cultural. That if you are a little bit on the plump side, then that's equated with you being healthier, and that's cultural. Although I think we've come a long way from that over the past several years. That we do understand better that we have to make better choices, and that being plumper isn't necessarily healthy. It's not necessarily unhealthy, but it's not necessarily an indicator of being healthy. So you have culture, you have trauma, and then you have some expectations of others in our communities. So I think trauma is the biggest one, or the biggest influence, because trauma literally changes our brains. And when we're under chronic stress, meaning that it's stress that's gone on for more than 6 months or so, and it's ongoing. There's a chemical in our body called cortisol, and it's the stress hormone that if it rises, and it does when we're under stress, it causes us to gain weight. So you have that working against you, and then you have sometimes the inability to deal with or overcome negative experiences in life that may stem from trauma or stem from just being exposed to chronic stress. And when I say chronic stress, I mean things like people who grew up in poverty, people who come from backgrounds where there was any type of abuse or neglect. Food insecurity is another chronic stressor. Divorce or separation of family, parent being imprisoned for a period of time, separation from parent, foster care. So those are all things that are that cause chronic and traumatic stress in children. And then if they're not taught how to recover or they're not helped to recover from those experiences, then it sets that child up to become an adult with a whole host of problems, including eating and distorted eating.
Distorted eating, that's a very interesting word to use because I know being in not only the mental health field, but also somewhat of a novice in the fitness area, not so much the best nutrition, but fitness, where I just recently competed in a powerlifting competition. There is a very structured, very disciplined way to eat in the fitness world. And I know, in the past, I have a military background, and I've always been, I'm 5'2", but I've never met the requirements where the height and weight chart tells us you have to be. So I've always been under the stress of I need to eat less to meet these requirements, even though I've always managed to meet the requirements when they do like body fat measurements. But regardless, when you step on the scale, the numbers matter. People say the numbers are not supposed to matter, but for some people, the numbers do matter. And so I became very disciplined in what I ate, and I limited my diet, and so I know how to do that, but now it's become a lot more harder for me, and I can tell that my relationship with food has changed, and the stress that I may have experienced years ago, the same stress would trigger me to eat completely different than what I used to eat. Even back then, if I was stressed out, I would still somewhat maintain my diet. Now it's like a rabbit hole. And it even to the point to where I'm full. I know I can't eat anymore, but yet I go back to eat more. And then it's the worst feeling. I don't know if anybody's ever done that before, but it's the worst feeling to be full and you still have to satisfy some type of oral fixation. You become worse. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, and that experience is not uncommon for people who are emotional eaters. Because their eating is not in response to hunger. It's in response to, I don't want to feel this way, or I want to feel, or they associate a certain type of food with feeling good, or it's subconscious. So by that I mean they're just eating and not really aware of feeling full or what they consume. So I knew someone who was really overweight and struggling and had surgery and had gained weight again. And this person would sit down with a big bag of M&Ms every single night after work. And this person worked in corporate America, very stressful job, high powered, and consume a huge bag of M&Ms every night. And not do it intentionally and feel awful afterwards, feel a tremendous sense of guilt. And part of that was because this person was, one, out of touch with their body. So this person had dissociated their emotions from their body. So they weren't able to feel that sense of fullness. And so consuming until, and this is also conscious eating, consuming a bag of M&Ms, and I mean not just like a small bag of M&Ms, like a big bag that you would think would last anybody else like a couple of weeks. And that was because the stress of the job, feeling like an imposter at the job, dealing with racism at the job, and so coming home and consuming the M&Ms, which had become I guess for this person, it was soothing, it was comfort, familiar. And so just eating and eating and eating and then going, oh my gosh, I did it again.
Right.
So for a lot of people, people will go, okay, I'm full, but detached from your body, because either you don't like your body or you've been touched in a way that has caused you to emotionally detach from your body. Yeah, that's another big one. Then that will cause people to have distorted eating as well.
Wow, that is interesting that you say that, because the reason why I started Hope in Her was because of my own trauma during childhood. I was molested as a child, and I wrote about this in some blogs on the website as well as a YouTube video, how growing up, I did at some point dissociate myself. It was I needed to separate myself from the experience. And so it's interesting. It's interesting that you say that in particular when it comes to now to emotional eating and how that could be related, because I never even thought that it would relate. That's very interesting.
It absolutely does. And I know so many women who have not made, and men who've not made that connection between childhood sexual abuse and emotional eating, because when a person is sexually abused or molested or touched inappropriately, what the message that child, there's several messages that child receives, but one is that your body doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the abuser.
Right.
And so, and then also to deal with the guilt, the shame, the anger, the hurt, sometimes there's what we call dissociation that happens, and that person detaches emotionally from the body. So that while that may not make sense to people who are listening, it really does happen. So maybe this, I can give another example, and maybe your listeners would understand this. So you know how you see a person, and I tend not to judge people based on their physical size. I tend to have a better understanding. But, sometimes people will look at a person, it's typically a girl, who may be wearing clothes that are too small for her. And they'll go, oh, she doesn't need to wear this. She doesn't know what she looks like, blah, 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 blah. And, that's all familiar to us.
Yes.
I have a different perspective on that. And that is sometimes people don't know what they look like physically.
Wow.
Yeah. So they may be able to look in the mirror, but their perception of themselves is very different sometimes than reality.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And even this may be on a smaller scale, because even me, whatever clothes I choose to wear, I look in my mirror. I'm like, oh, I look cute, and whatever. And then someone takes a picture, and you're like, wait, that's what I'm like. Whoa, okay. Like my mirror doesn't show that. I need to take a picture of that. So that is interesting. That could bear. Yeah, that's a very valid point.
Yeah, and that's a defense. It really is a defense. And so, I've worked with people who have been really overweight, but their perceptions of how overweight they are is often skewed because they've lost contact with their body, and they're not literally, but emotionally they've disconnected from their bodies. And so there's a very sad story. Several years ago, maybe about 15 years ago, I was out with a friend who really at the time was really, really overweight, and we all went out to a club, and she sat down on a chair, and very sadly the chair broke.
Oh no.
And it was awful. She was embarrassed, and people were really, really compassionate.
Okay.
But her experience of that was very different than what one would think. Her explanation was that there was something wrong with the chair. And we're talking somebody that was like probably 350 or more.
Okay.
So it probably was more related to her weight than the chair.
Right.
But again, this is an example of a person who had really disconnected from herself, and so her perception of how much she actually weighed was very, very different than what other people saw. And she did go on to have the weight loss surgery and lost quite a few pounds, but when she looked at herself in the mirror and she was probably about 150 pounds less, she still didn't recognize herself. And that was because, again, that emotional disconnect had happened, and there was no therapy in the process of her having the weight loss surgery and her losing all that weight, so that she could become more connected to herself. So it's always sad for me when I see people go through the weight loss surgery and they don't get counseling before, during, and after, because they're going to gain the weight back. They're going to gain it back. It's a minority that doesn't gain it back. The majority of people gain that weight back because it's not about what they're eating. It's not. And so those of us who have had weight problems, we know what to eat. We know what's healthy.
Yeah.
We know we should have 7 fruits and vegetables, drink water, blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. Yep.
But if it were that simple, we wouldn't have a weight problem.
Yeah.
It's more complex than that.
And that brings me to my next question because, there are two. You brought up an interesting point. I would like to know later on, how can we, you said there was a loss in connection emotionally with your body. I would like to know, how can we gain that back? How can we fix that? But before we answer that, so when it comes to emotional eating, it's not necessarily a lack of discipline, or is it? Or is it truly your mental willingness? What is it? Because, like I said, I'm in powerlifting. I do have a trainer who also oversees my nutrition, and when I do not follow the diet as to the T, for me, I know that I've done my best, but for someone looking out, it may seem like, oh, you're just not disciplined. You're not willing to stick to the diet like I ask you to. So can you speak on that?
Yeah. It has nothing to do with discipline. It does not. And that drives me crazy when people say, you just got to be more disciplined. My husband is good for saying that. He's the Army Ranger.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I know that. Yep.
And so, his big thing is, you just got to be more disciplined. But people who are emotional eaters tend to be disciplined in other aspects of their lives. I mean, they can be successful, they can run a household, they can run a business, they can be successful. So it's not really about discipline. It really is about emotion. And it really is either about, I'm feeling too much of this emotion. I don't want to feel this emotion. So I'm gonna sublimate it by eating a huge bag of potato chips. Or I want to, or I've associated M&Ms with relaxing at the end of a night, and so it becomes a habit. So it really has nothing to do with discipline, and anybody who says that is wrong. Or probably has not had a weight problem before. And needs to be educated that really is only part of it. And so it's a matter of learning how to regulate emotions better, learning how to sit with difficult emotions, learning how to manage stress better, and then dealing with the origins of the emotional eating. So whether or not it's childhood trauma, or just being under so much stress, or having a low self-esteem, that's really what I do when I'm working with women who have emotional eating, is we deal with the core issues. As a therapist, I know that we have what we call core beliefs. And those are the things that we tell ourselves that just kind of come automatically. And they can be things like, I'll never be able to lose weight. I'll never be able to exercise on a regular basis. And so if I can help my clients to become more aware of their core beliefs, then we can change those core beliefs. And then we can change some of the negative habits to more positive, helpful and healthier habits.
And what are some of the practical things you can do to actually move past the emotional eating? And I would like to say, being in this field, I think stress is more prevalent. Maybe childhood trauma has a lot to do with it. But I do know, being in stressful work environments, how it seems like you never escape the stress. So you never really, sometimes you can be working till 7 o'clock at night, and then you may have not even eaten for 10 hours.
Yep. And that's part of it, Hope, is that we have to learn how to take better care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's really where it starts is, okay, I have to prioritize myself. And I know we all know that, and self-care is important, but do we do it on a regular basis? And most of the time the answer is no, we don't. So when I'm working with people who have emotional eating problems, and to go back to answer your question about how do we become more in touch with our bodies and more connected with who we are, people don't like this answer, but it's the truth. We've got to physically engage our bodies. So we've got to exercise. We've got to walk. Yoga is another really good way to emotionally re-engage with your body.
Okay.
Because that's not about thinking so much, although some people do overthink when they're doing yoga. But
that's me. I do.
And then the other thing is, I mentioned a few minutes ago, is to learn how to sit with uncomfortable feelings and not try to change our feeling state. So it's called mindfulness, really, and we, we're all familiar with that term. But mindfulness really does help, because mindfulness is about not judging but accepting. And so if we can get to a place where we can not judge ourselves, our thoughts, then it helps us to be able to have more realistic picture of the totality of who we are, including our bodies. And then learning self-acceptance, that, you're beautiful, you're lovable, the way that you are. Now, we might say, well, but you want to get healthier, and that's fine. We can work on getting healthier, but really learning how to love yourself where you are right now. And that's the practice of self-compassion, and being compassionate with yourself, and not blaming so much and not feeling so much ashamed of, yourself when you take off all your clothes and you look in the mirror and you're looking at all your imperfections. Learning how to be compassionate and going, you know what? I have cellulite. I'm okay with that. Everybody has cellulite. Or if they don't, they will.
Right.
But really just being compassionate with ourselves. The other thing that I do with women is, and it's a must, these are 3 things that they must do when they come see me. They have to commit to treatment.
Okay.
They have to exercise. And people always are afraid of that. But I tell people, if you walk 30 minutes a day, that's great.
Okay.
You don't have to power lift. Although I think that is awesome. I wish I could power lift.
You can. Everybody can. I swear.
You have to journal.
Okay.
Journaling, one, it helps us to get a better picture of what's going on internally if we can journal without being judgmental of our thoughts, feelings.
So what do you include in your journaling? Or what should someone include in their journaling?
Well, there's 2 parts that I recommend. One is, and you already know this, is journaling what you eat.
Okay.
Your food intake, and like every single morsel of food. The other day I was making cookies for my husband, and as I was like baking them and I was taking them out, I was like eating one. And I was like, wait a second, Lisa, these calories count too.
Yes, they sure do, even though we don't want to admit it to ourselves.
Exactly. So being really honest by journaling every single morsel, because a lot of times we're not aware that, oops, I've just eaten a dozen cookies when I was baking them.
Yeah.
Or, oops, I haven't eaten since 8 o'clock in the morning, so now I'm gonna I'm just gonna overeat for dinner because, I haven't eaten since this morning. So that kind of journaling helps us to uncover patterns of how we take care of ourselves, how we abuse ourselves, how we eat, how much we consume. And it also helps us to understand the emotional state that we're in. So once you can understand, like, wow, I ate that big bag of potato chips after my stressful day, then we know, trigger. Now, what do we do to replace that eating that bag of chips? And then the other steps, so I said journaling, exercising. Oh, and then they have to see a nutritionist too. And again, not that those of us who are overweight don't know nutrition, but I think it's always helpful to have a consult with a nutritionist to learn how to replace things that we like with healthier choices. So for me, like, I like potato chips. Obviously, lots of fat, lots of sodium. A healthier replacement is make kale chips, that are healthier for you and no fat and and I can control the amount of sodium that I put in my kale chips. So I always like to have a nutritional consult so people can learn how to replace things that they really like with healthier alternatives. So that's my approach in working with women who struggle with emotional eating. And I say women because that's mostly who I see. I have seen men who have emotional eating problems, but it's not to the extent that it is with women.
Yeah. So I know you talked about replacing what you like to eat with healthier options. Do you happen to know what we can replace with pizza? Because pizza is my kryptonite. I swear, I love pizza. I don't know if it's the cheese and the soft doughy bread, because I do know people. A lot of my friends like Mexican food, and they say, "Oh, I like the crunch." And I'm not a crunchy, greasy type of eater. I love like pastas and cheesiness and like garlicky types of food. So, what are some replacements for that?
Well, I don't know if this is going to be appealing to you. There is, so the what's unhealthy about pizza? It's the dough in its. So I know, and I have not tried this, but I know that people have replaced the dough with cauliflower.
I have tried that, yes. And
how is it?
Out of the 3 times I've tried it, I've ruined it twice, and that's because the cauliflower has to be very dry. Cauliflower is naturally moist, so you have to make sure it's pretty dry. And I didn't do that the first or the second 2 times, and so it didn't come out as good. But it did come out really well the first time. So I think I just have to, be more patient.
Right, exactly. And that's what it takes, is like really be willing to try different things. I mean, so, you can try the cauliflower crust and then maybe try a low-fat cheese rather than a full-fat cheese. And I've tried vegan cheese alternatives, and frankly, I just love it. Disgusting. So, I don't know if there's a healthier alternative to cheese. Now, you can do a pizza, like a cauliflower pizza with the tomato sauce, and then like a little bit of cheese, and maybe put vegetables on top. But, for those of us who love pizza, which I do too, it's the cheesy gooiness that we really like.
Yeah.
So, you could do something like, because you don't have to necessarily give up pizza. Like, I don't necessarily give up potato chips because I love them, but it's, you know what? I'm going to have a slice of pizza tonight, and then I won't have another slice for another week or so.
Okay.
And so if you can get to the point where you're able to do that, and I think that once people deal with the emotional aspects of eating, it becomes a little easier to change your mindset. You know what I mean? So, there were times when, before I was married, I was single, I have a private practice I was running, and I'd be working all day long, and I'd come home and I would be completely famished. I'd order a Domino's pizza and thin crust because I thought, that's healthier. Entire pizza. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I ate this entire pizza by myself. But now I would talk myself out of feeling guilty. Oh, it was thin crust, and it was, but it was not the best choice for me.
And it's so much easier to do that than when you get off from a long day to actually cook and go through that whole process. So I know that's where I found myself a lot. Like, after work, I'm exhausted. I haven't eaten, so I just want to eat something quick. And so I may order that pizza versus going into the kitchen, taking out the lettuce, and sometimes it's not even appealing because it's like, that's not going to fill me up. Like, I want to feel fulfilled, and this is not going to do it.
So what I found that really, really helps is meal planning.
Yes, that does.
It makes a huge difference, is planning your meals. And so, and there are all kinds of apps that will help you to do that. Mm-hmm. So if you go online and you find an app and you plan your meal for the week, it takes the guesswork out of, what am I going to eat this week?
Yeah.
Or tonight, what am I going to have tonight? Because you already know, it's already planned. And I have been doing that, and I got out of the habit because now I'm kind of commuting a little bit. It's a little bit more difficult because I'm not home every night. Mm-hmm. But if it's a week when I'm home, like, I know exactly what I'm going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner because I plan that out. Mm-hmm. And that helps so much. People tend to get healthier when they are more planful around what they eat. And so if you can try to incorporate that will help. Yeah.
It definitely does help. I think, and to be honest, we can go back to the plant-based diet where you mentioned earlier. My relationship with food is all over the place. I went from I actually followed a plant-based diet for a whole year, and I loved it. And I didn't miss the meat because before then, like I said, I was meal prepping. I was counting calories. I was making sure I had all this protein, and I was working out so much. And I just felt exhausted from eating meat. Like, I feel like I couldn't stomach another chicken breast. I couldn't stomach another thing of ground turkey. And I was like, I cannot do this. So it was easy for me to just walk away from the meat because I was over it. But then the stress came October 2016 when I decided to lunch Hope and Her, and everything went downhill from there. I was up all night trying to work, not eating, and I'm like, okay, I need to eat. So I would eat everything in sight. And plant-based diet food can it takes a lot of preparation. There's no real food where you can just like get it quick. You have to really plan it out. So that slowly started to like disappear because I'm like, I don't have time to be in the kitchen. I would rather be on my computer looking at this website than in the kitchen for 3 hours. So so the plant-based diet, and I feel like that's where I want to work my way back to because I feel my healthiest.
I'll be done. Wow. Okay.
It's a struggle. Trust me, it is not easy. I've had a lot of like ups and downs. And so as of right now, because it's Lent, I haven't had any pizza. I'm proud of myself.
Okay.
So I've eliminated the meat. It's not 100% plant-based, but I feel like that's baby steps. Because since then, I've tried before to go back, and it was not successful. So, and I think it's mainly because of when I do get stressed. It's so much easier to get something quick, and there are not a lot of options for quick food that's plant-based. So I'll have to learn to actually, like you said, plan things out.
And that's also, I think a key for you too is to really deal with the stress, really, deal with it. And again, as women, sometimes we take on way too much. We don't say no often enough. We feel guilty, feel responsible for everybody and everything. And we usually end up at the bottom of the list, whereas we should be at the top of the list. A couple of years ago, my practice was just booming. And I nearly worked myself to death. And then I was like, okay, I'm not going to continue to do this. So I decreased my work hours to 2.5 days a week. And that's not to suggest that I'm not still busy, but my life has changed such that it's a lot more manageable than it was, a few years ago. And I'm planning to decrease it even more after the summertime. So, I was fortunate that I was in a position to be able to do that. And that's what I needed to do. And I also started exercising more. And that helped a lot as well. Like really prioritizing, okay, Lisa, what do you need to do for yourself? Are you having fun? Are you doing things, with your friends? Are you, tending to your spiritual needs? And so really adding things to our lives, right? So that we know that we are prioritizing our health and ourselves and our self-care.
Yeah.
So that's probably the important thing for you at this point in your life too.
Yeah. Well, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I've heard that from every intern when I was in school getting my my graduate degree, my internships, my supervisors say, Hope, you need to focus on self-care because you don't. You literally run all day. And and I think that does contribute to the superwoman image that Black women in particular are so closely related to. We want to do everything. We want to be successful at everything. And we when we do things, we want to do it well. And obviously, the last thing that's on our mind is taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
We live in like this time where being a business owner, being an influencer, being this, being that, it's like the thing to do now. And as a young person, I'm in my 30s, and I think we get the message a lot from maybe older people who may have businesses and they may be very successful, where they say, in your 20s and 30s, you need to work your butt off. You need to, and it's almost like stand up all night, skipping meals, just working is like a badge of honor. And so we've started to actually implement that into our lifestyles. Like we just go, because we're trying to achieve this level of success, because we want what we see as far as success, becoming influential in the community, being successful, all of that. And I think that was part of my thing. Like when I launched my blog, it's like I wanted everything to happen tomorrow. Like,
of course.
Forget a year from now. I want this blog to be popping tomorrow, so I'm gonna stay up all night and but we hear so much though. It's like you have to. We hear the message of do the work, put in the work. You have to sacrifice things, and so it does become very difficult to find that balance.
But it's a process. It really is. Growing a business is a process. Becoming successful is a process, and you want to be able to enjoy it. So you don't want to work yourself, till you're sick. You want to be able to enjoy it. So if you can remember, it's a process, but in the middle of the process, I also have to take care of myself. That will help to slow you down as well. It will. It will slow you down as well. Because if you're an ambitious person, which it sounds like you absolutely are, you're gonna create what you need to create, and don't get caught up on what other people are doing or what other people think you should be doing. Trust your own process and trust yourself that you're going to achieve what it is that you see yourself achieving. And I know that feeling, of being very ambitious and really wanting something, but you're going to create it, so you don't have to kill yourself in the process.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to put out there in regard
to? I just feel like this is such an important topic. And, when I drive through communities of color and I see young girls who are, coming out of the corner store and they have their potato chips and they have their soda, I tend not to go to judging them. I go to being curious about their lives. I feel like in the media, there's a lot of talk about, black people are overweight and unhealthy and they have high blood pressure and diabetes. And, there's a lot of shame with that without people really understanding what it's all about. And so when I'm working with people, is I really try to help them to move away from shame and blame and understanding. Even doctors don't understand it.
You're right.
So I know so many people who avoid going to the doctors because they don't want to hear the doctor go, you got to lose weight, because the doctor is not informed about what trauma is about and what, stress and how that impacts a person's eating. So for any of your listeners who are out there who may be struggling with emotional eating, hopefully they can take away from this some understanding to take back to their family members, to their doctors, and there's research behind it. So this is not just me making this up. There's a couple of books I want to recommend.
Okay.
Geneen Roth, Genee Roth, Roth, is like a pioneer in the field of emotional eating. So any book by her, is helpful.
Okay.
Then another book is called The Body Keeps Score.
Yes, I've heard of that. That is a very cool book.
Yes. And so what I can do as well, so that people can have the links to these, I can send you the links to them, because there's another one and it is escaping my mind right now.
Okay.
That I think is really helpful for people to read. I'll send you the link to them, and then you can link them along with the podcast, because I think it will help people to have a better understanding of maybe themselves and why they eat the way that they do.
Definitely. I will love that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
One thing, I know we were trying to wrap it up, but you did touch on some things. I can totally agree with you how when we do go to the doctor, there's a disconnect there. Because like I said in the past, I'm 5'2", so according to the height and body chart, I'm supposed to be like 115 pounds. I haven't seen 115 pounds since So every time I do go to the doctor, there's always this conversation. And sometimes I feel like I have to find a doctor who looks like me so they can better understand.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what? Educate your doctor. And so like maybe with these resources that I share with you, you can take the citations to your doctor and go, but listen, this is what I'm struggling with. Because doctors don't understand it. We assume that they do because
they're doctors.
They understand the body, right? The doctors, but they don't.
Right.
They don't. And I feel like they, in some ways, and I don't think it's intentional, but I think they contribute to the problem. I think it just increases the shame that people feel. That is a shame, because that's just not helpful, and that just alienates the patient. But yeah, these resources that I'm going to share with your audience, I think they're going to be very helpful. And then the resources that they can share with their doctors to help educate their doctors about why they're struggling. And hopefully the doctors will have a different perception and perspective on things.
I hope so. Ms. Lisa, how can people actually get in contact with you if they have any questions? Do you want to share?
So my website is, it's a long one, but it's Delaware Center for Counseling and Wellness.com.
Okay.
Or people can certainly send me an email, and my email is a little easier. It's Lisa Savage, LCSW@gmail.com. Lisa Savage, LCSW, all one word, @gmail.com.
Great. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the My Lotus Moments podcast with Hope. If you enjoyed this episode, share the Apple Podcast with a friend or someone you know who needs it. And please take a few minutes to rate and review the show, because that is how other people find us. And if you're talking about this episode online, don't forget to use the hashtag MyLotusMoments and tag me at JustMoreHope on Instagram and Twitter. Until next time, thanks for listening.